Hey guys, and welcome back to part 4 of our review of the No Middle Ground chapter pack for Game of Thrones. So far on AMC, we've talked about Stark, we've talked about Tyrell, and we've talked about Targaryen. So now it is time to talk about Baratheon. Baratheon got two very interesting cards in this pack, in my opinion. First of all, we have Gendry. There was a Gendry card in first edition, but it was completely different from this. I'll show you that card right here. Gendry here in 2.0 is a 4-cost, 4-strength military power icons. He is non-loyal, he is unique, and he has the Bastard trait. He has two abilities on his card. The first is a reaction. After you win dominance, Gendry gains 1 power. The second is a forced reaction. After an opponent wins dominance, you may discard 1 power from Gendry. If you do not, sacrifice a Bastard character. When I first saw this card, I really liked it, but for different reasons than I ended up liking it now. So I thought at first that this would probably be a one-of in most Bara decks. I don't think that now. However, I do think that this card and the next card we're going to talk about are really, really great in a certain niche dominance-focused deck out of Baratheon, and it's going to slot very nicely into that sort of build. Obviously, some of the upsides of this card is, in a dominance-focused deck, it's going to help you accelerate that rush to get to 15 much quicker. At 4 cost, he's not going to get hit by first snow, which we like, and I think that was a deliberate decision by FFG here to do a 4 for 4 rather than a 3 for 3. Him being non-loyal means he can be bannered. I just took a quick look around to see what other Bastard characters currently existed, and we have the Bastard in Hiding out of Baratheon, which you're probably going to include in a focused deck if you're building with this card. You have the Bastard's Daughter out of Martell, and Jon Snow, and then the 2 Sand Snakes. You have Nymeria and Obara are both Bastards, but again, probably a secondary or even tertiary consideration when looking at this card. If you look at the other things in the 4-cost slot for Baratheon, you have the King's Hunting Party, which I believe Gendry is superior to that card. You have the Rattleshirt Raiders, which I believe the two of them are roughly on par. I think Gendry in a focused dominance deck will be better than the Raiders are in a generic deck, but overall I would say they're roughly on equal footing. And then you have Davos, which I think Davos is clearly a better card because he has repeatable use. Overall, it's a bit of a wash as far as the cost slot. I think the key here is talking about the type of deck you're going to put him in. He's not the type of card that you're going to splash into just any Baratheon deck, because there's a good chance that if it's not a dominance-focused deck, you're only going to get a single use out of him. However, if you do include him in a dominance-focused deck, you're going to want to include cards like the Iron Throne, the Painted Table, the Fiery Followers, and the next card we're going to talk about, Tophomat's Armory. All great dominance-focused cards, and that can lend itself to a sort of sub-theme to certain Bara decks to make winning dominance very, very important, and it's going to accelerate the win condition of those decks. As far as formats are concerned, this is clearly a joust card in my opinion. Because the likelihood of winning dominance in melee is much less because there's 3 other players at the table, you're probably never going to include this in a melee deck. I don't think that hurts the value of the card in a joust deck, obviously, but it's something I always want to mention. The Bastard trait historically is not good in this game. There's generally interactions added, and I expect more to be added to 2nd edition in the future that hurt the Bastard trait, similar to the way I was talking about the Ally trait. There won't be as many, but there's probably going to be something in the future that allows you to discard a Bastard of your opponents, or something, an attachment that gives somebody the Bastard trait, maybe a plot interaction. So I do think that the Bastard trait here is a negative. Obviously, the interaction on its own card is part of the negative, but I think that could become a liability in the future as well. So if you're going to build a dominance-winning-based Baratheon deck with the cards that I previously mentioned, I think this card is fantastic. Otherwise, I think you don't play it. So a bit of a mixed bag there, depending on what type of player you are. If you love Baratheon or you like Shaga combo type decks, you're going to probably either like this card or hate this card, because if you like those niche decks, you're going to like this card and you're going to use it. But if you're not a Baratheon player or you don't like playing combos, then you're probably going to not care about this card very much. I would say for what it is supposed to do and the theme it is trying to support, it is a very good card, but I don't think it is going to be used very often until the rest of this theme gets developed by FFG. There's not much to say about the other Baratheon card that was released here. It is a 2-cost location, Tophomat's Armory. After you win Dominance, kneel Tobhomat's Armory to draw 1 card. So again, you're probably going to put this in a deck with Gendry, with the Iron Throne, with the Painted Table, and Fiery Followers on focused, even a sub-theme maybe onto an existing Baratheon deck, but as more cards are circling around winning Dominance, you're going to see more and more decks like that because it ends the game very fast. Not much to say about Tobhomat's Armory. I do want to say kudos to FFG for making this card loyal. So far they have kept all draw mechanics loyal to their house so that they can't be abused by banners in the future. I think that was a great job by them, and I like to see them continuing that trend here. I do notice that this location has the King's Landing trait. Now, there was some support off of certain cards in first edition for the King's Landing trait on locations, so while I don't expect that to matter for a very long time, sometime down the future, that King's Landing trait will do something somewhere, so keep an eye out for that. As far as competition for this card, Bara does have other good 2-cost locations, including some that deliver draw, so there's going to be a little bit of competition in that slot. It's going to be a little bit harder to use effectively in Melee because more players are obviously trying to win Dominance, so not a great Melee card. And I do want to point out that because it is only 2 cost, it can be knelt by the Greyjoy Shipwright, so a little bit of vulnerability there. But overall, I don't mind the card. At 2 gold, I think it is costed well. I don't expect it to see more than 1x in a deck. There's really not much more to say about it. It is nice to see them supporting fun sub-themes in decks like Dominance, and this is another example of a card like that. So that is all we have for the Baratheon cards in Part 4. Stick around for Part 5 when we're going to be talking about Martell.